Alrighty, so just trying to remember. We've done the heel, we did the auto sits, and then we started the recall.
Yeah.
And then I think the long leash
Yep,
stuff.
we did the long leash and then I would move over
Sure.
and come back.
Uh-huh.
And we practiced it, that's what we did last week. We did the long leash and then we added her coming to me and then me moving 3 steps to the left.
Yes, okay, the side step stuff. Okay, so I was thinking today I'd give you something that you can practice inside.
Okay.
Because once it gets cold and snowy,
Yeah.
almost everybody, unless they have like a winter type dog or a dog who's fine in the winter,
Yeah.
tends to not go out as much.
Yeah.
That, I think last time I mentioned, like you're probably gonna get set back a little bit if you're not doing as much if they're outside.
Yeah.
So this gives you something to practice inside.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Now the only kind of benefit that you'll get from this is more so just the ability to put her under pressure, no matter what the weather is.
Okay.
Right? So like, I don't think you'll have, or maybe you will, much use for this command itself. So application-wise, it may not be useful to you, but it's more so behaviorally is why I'm going to be covering it with you.
Okay.
Okay. So in obedience training, we have 6, how would you say, like 6 foundational, like family pet commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel.
Uh-huh.
So those 6 commands are like the commands that almost every family pet, you know, if they're formally trained, will learn.
Mhm.
You know, paw, roll over, things like that. That's all like extra
Yeah.
curriculum, whatever. It's fun stuff.
Mhm.
I know that stuff. I've taught that stuff, but it's not what I do.
Yeah.
I do like stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
So out of those 6 commands, they kind of break down to 3: walk with me, stay with me, come to me when I call you, and then don't move. Those are like the 3, like what I call the trifecta.
Mhm.
Walk with me, come to me, and don't move.
Yeah.
So heel would be the walk with me, come, of course, is come to me. And the one we're going to cover today is I just cover place command.
Okay.
Place is very simple. It's, and actually, let me grab this real quick. This is what we use here.
Okay.
We use a placemat. You don't need to have anything like this. This is just what we use here because these like last forever.
Yeah.
But you can use like if she's got a dog bed.
Yeah.
So this is meant for extended use, or what we call duration work. So like if I get a dog that is like kind of over the top inside the home, just constantly like needing to do something, you know, dogs become what you allow them to practice. So like for Tessie here, she's always like practicing that shutdown, and it goes unaddressed. That's who she is.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's who
Yeah.
she becomes. She probably, like with a human, like I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke. But let's say I decided like I start with 1 cigarette, right? And then every day is 1 cigarette. And then finally one day I'm like, you know, I need another one. And I got 2 cigarettes. And then over time it becomes 4, and then it becomes a pack, and then it becomes a pack a day, right?
Yeah.
Because now I become a smoker. So for dogs, regardless of what it is they're practicing, whether it's just like overstimulation, shutdown, you know, aggressive responses, bully type behaviors, and all these things, the more it goes unaddressed, the more that becomes who they are.
Okay.
So if I decide, I start smoking, and I'm like, you know what, this isn't healthy, and it's not worth whatever they cost now,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop smoking. I'm now cutting a habit. I'm no longer a smoker. Okay. So for her, this here is more so because it gives you something where you can practice e-collar with,
Okay.
despite what the outside weather is like.
Okay.
Because that's the main thing here is she needs to be put under more pressure. She needs to be exposed more, which you know you've been doing. So like the first day with like the walking and stuff, not allowing her to shut down, she had to keep moving. And I think I said start in the neighborhood and slowly start to branch out. And then as you see her get over new things, just start branching out more and more and more. And then if you ever see anything that she like is really concerned by, like maybe a really busy street or whatever, then I start targeting that.
Okay.
So for instance, we have a puppy here, his name is Bill Murray. He's a little bulldog puppy, yeah. And we took him out for a pack walk the other day because it was really nice out. And I noticed, because I was the last one, that when we got under the underpass, he started getting kind of flighty and kind of like jumping around and going like this, right? So right away when I see that, I go, oh, this dog is not being walked. like, or this dog is not being exposed. Like he needs to be exposed. That's why like he's I believe like 4 months now. He's been coming here for 2 months. He should be over all that stuff. Okay, so when I see a dog with that, I go right off the bat. I was like, I told my handler, I'm like, when they come to pick him up, make sure you relay this information for them. Ask them if they're walking their dog. If they're not walking their dog, tell them they need to, because that's going to become a problem. So as soon as I see something, I start confronting it because I don't want it to develop again into a habit. He's going to be a very powerful dog. The last thing we need is a very powerful flighty dog because that can lead to other behaviors.
Right.
So here, for the place command, it's more so just you can practice e-collar with her on a regular basis. She's probably going to resist. She may even resist this a lot just because it's a completely kind of foreign object, or she might just hop right on it.
Yeah.
So the reason why we teach this is application-wise, like let's say you decided come the springtime or the summertime you wanted to take Tessie to like a restaurant with you and not have to worry about her like being all over the place.
Yeah.
That's where this comes into play.
Good.
Okay, so there's 3 stationary commands: sit, down, and place. Sit is essentially what she's doing right there. She's in a sitting position. Down, of course, we can lay down. And then place is go to this object. Okay. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be like we have an elevated dog bed. It can be a dog bed. It can be an ottoman. It can be a towel. It can be a blanket. It just needs to be something that sets a perimeter. Okay. So I wouldn't point to the corner there and say place, because where does it end? Okay. There's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing like limiting. Like that way we have the corner, but this way we have nothing visually limiting. Right. Here we have a perimeter. Right. So then she'll learn, oh, when I hear this word, I go on to this thing. As long as I stay within that thing, nothing happens. Okay?
Yeah.
And then I don't care if she's sitting, standing, or laying down. So it's more lenient. It's not strict, because in obedience training, if you say sit, it's sit and nothing else until I release you. Okay? So if I told her to go to place or go to her bed, she could sit down, she could lay down, she could chew on a toy. If someone came to pet her, she could stand up. That's not a problem. She just has to stay within the space of the object. Okay? Questions on this?
No.
So, in terms of application, like you can use this as much as you want. I'm more concerned on how she's going to respond with being put under pressure to go to something, because if she gives us a bit of a fight, well, that's good, because again, it's something for us to target. And it's just kind of work her through to build her confidence. Like, you don't need to resist. This is perfectly fine.
Okay.
If you think to yourself, oh, not just behaviorally, but like, I think I would actually use this in life in the future once things, we can go out. You do want to start working on it then.
Okay.
Practice using it regularly. We've had dogs. We do a lot of this here with our dogs that come to like daycare and our boarded trains and stuff, because this is a different form of exercise. This is mental exercise.
Okay.
So for like dogs that really want to move around a lot, so I like it to like, as a kid growing up, if we went to church, as my mom was like, sit still, be quiet, right? And I remember just like being there, and you fidget your kid, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to contain yourself.
Yeah.
And then, I get out of church, and then she's like, okay, there's a playground across the park. She's like, you can go run around and play now, right? So for dogs, it's very similar. They're like a 3 to 4 year old child up here.
Okay.
So,
all dogs are just at certain.
That's their learning capacity.
Oh, really?
She'll never get past a 3 to 4 year old child. Like, she's never gonna become 18 or 21 to get a job, pay rent or anything like that.
That's okay.
She's a mooch. Down forever.
You're always gonna be a mooch.
Yeah. Her learning capacity is that of a 3 to 4 year old child. Okay. Which is why we talk about corrections and stuff, because children understand the concept of what they can and can't do. Same thing for dogs. So they don't have right and wrong. Okay. Like if a dog bites a person, they don't understand that that's wrong. Okay. But you can teach them that behavior is something they can't do through aversives. Okay. So that's how all that stuff works. Here for her, like let's say she was a bit of a zoomer and like was always just constantly active. This is something I would teach right away, because we want something that's going to counter the brain to teach the dog how to settle. Because that tells me that's a dog that has no off switch. And not having an off switch is unhealthy. So, questions so far?
Can this work? Like she's totally into. She won't come into the kitchen and bug me when I'm eating, but if I'm in the dining room and have people over and there's food, I always have to put her in her crate because she
Yeah.
just jumps and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
This will work for that too?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's anytime you want her to be still for a bit,
Okay.
right? So people do use it for dinner.
Yep.
I've had people use it for when guests come over.
Yep.
You know, when they go to restaurant patios, or maybe they go to a friend's house and the dog's being a little bit too rambunctious.
Yeah. So
And
you
then-
got the collar on?
Yes,
Okay.
right. So think of the collar as when you need control, you're gonna need it,
Okay.
right? So why there's cops for humans,
Yep.
right? And when there's no cops around, people of course press the boundaries. Or if someone, like let's say it's a more extreme thing, like if someone's gonna try to rob a bank, they're not gonna rob a bank when there's a bunch of cop cars in front of it. They're gonna wait till all those cop cars are gone because that's the opportunity,
Right.
right? So same thing for dogs. That e-collar, that cop on the collar, so when you know you're gonna need control, you're gonna want to have that
Okay.
cop around, okay?
Okay, got it.
Now, it is possible to practice this to an extent where you can go past it within the home, because in your home there's only so many stimuli.
Yeah.
You know, so like I've had people in the past, maybe when their guests come over, the first 15 minutes will have the collar on, then once the dog settles, they're
Uh-huh.
perfectly fine.
Okay.
And then they remove it.
Yeah.
But it's just that initial,
That's me.
like, person coming in,
Yeah.
and then once the dog settles, they're like, okay, we don't need it anymore, they remove it, okay?
I need that with jumping when people come over. She goes crazy.
Sure. So you do one of two things. One would be this,
Yep.
right? And you would do this preemptively. So if I know at 5:30 you have guests coming over, at 5 o'clock she's already here.
Okay.
Now this is the difference. If you send her here, your guest comes in, she's not going to jump on them because she's unable to.
Yeah.
She's here,
Yeah.
right? However, let's say an hour later, if you release her and she's still very excited, what's going to happen?
She's gonna jump.
Right? Because we didn't teach her to not jump.
Right.
We just told her, go here, so that we didn't allow her to do that.
Uh-huh.
So then if you want to correct the jumping,
Yeah.
you would actually remote the behavior itself.
Okay.
Okay? So if she jumped on the dog, and that dog did not like it, the dog would bite her, or
Yeah.
nip at her, right? Or growl or bark, whatever, as a consequence to her behavior. Okay? So here, if she's jumping on someone, a lot of people usually say sit, right? They'll go, no,
Yeah.
sit. We don't do that.
Okay.
Because now the dog, if you remote her, thinks it's because she didn't sit, not because
okay.
she shouldn't be jumping.
Okay.
So then we make things more complicated.
Okay.
So when it comes to jumping, there's technically a number of solutions, but it's just understanding what each solution does. If I place her, yeah, it stops the jumping, but as soon as I release her, she's gonna jump, right? If I sit her, same concept. She's gonna put her butt down, but she's not gonna be sitting there forever.
Right.
So the moment she gets up, she's gonna jump.
Okay.
So when she jumps, instead, my preferred approach is I just correct the behavior.
Okay.
So then, let's say I came in, she was jumping on me, I'd stand still, I would be ignoring her. You would be at your typical obedience number, right? So if it's 40, you would start at 40, and we let her jump. We don't say anything, and start tapping. If at 40 nothing happens, she keeps jumping, 45, 50, 55, 60, keep going up. Maybe you hit 85, and then finally she stops jumping and removes herself, and then I go down and pet her.
Okay.
And then as I'm petting her, she tries to jump again.
Yeah.
I stop petting her. You remote her. She puts her butt down.
Okay.
Or she stops jumping, right?
Okay.
And what would most likely happen is when you correct the jumping, the dog will often think, well, what do I need to do in order to not be corrected and get what I want, like the pet. A lot of times they just sit anyways.
Okay.
Okay.
So you just gotta pet them once they stop jumping.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then she learns, when I keep my paws on the ground, I get what I want. When I
Yeah.
put my paws on the person, I get remoted.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Uh,
She doesn't jump on me, it's other people when they walk in the door, so is it the same thing? Do I say don't jump or do I just click it?
Personally just click, because the way a dog brain works is if she jumps and you say off and then you remote her, technically she can jump until you say off.
Okay.
Okay, so
Got
like
it.
for a kid, you can tell them like, you don't jump on guests, right? And the kid just knows I don't jump on people. But for dogs, they think I can jump on people until I hear off, because it's when I hear off that I get a consequence.
Okay, okay,
So if she jumps and gets the consequence automatically with no warning,
yeah,
that's what deters the behavior.
okay, perfect.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's a tiny little detail. People always get it mixed up.
Yep,
Um,
I've been saying off and sit, but
Sure.
as long as I know to do that, we're good. Because she does it, she just did it the other night, and it's just like, you
Yeah.
gotta stop.
The other
Okay.
thing you want to consider is your guest energy, because if they come over, they're like, you
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah, okay,
Now you can, of course, teach her to ignore that energy, and she's still gonna want to greet them, but she can't be jumping,
yeah,
right? So typically, what I recommend in the beginning is just tell your guests, ignore
Yeah.
her when you come in. and then let her do her thing, you correct her, and then you say, now you can pet her, and then
Yeah.
when she jumps, you tell her stop petting, you promote her, and you keep repeating that process.
Mhm.
Is at some point, it's technically unfair to the dog, but it's just the way the world works, is if people come at her with that kind of energy, she still needs to learn how to behave around it,
Yeah,
right? So then once I get the calm version done, so
Yeah.
that sets the foundation down, then I'll say, okay, now you can be yourself, however, don't touch her. So they would come in, like, hey, how you doing, right? They would do all that stuff, and she's jumping, and you correct her, and the brain just goes back to everything it's learned.
okay,
And you should see it's much easier to keep her settled.
Okay.
And eventually she'll learn, oh, even if they come in super excited and high energy and stuff,
Yeah.
I still have to keep my paws to the ground.
okay,
Okay?
yep,
I don't care what she does in response, I just care she doesn't jump on people.
yeah,
So if she's like walking to their legs or she's like rubbing on them, I personally don't care. If you wanted a more strict introduction, then you would put more rules to it, like
Okay.
remoting her until she puts her butt down or something like that.
okay,
But that, I wouldn't say sit, I would just remote her until she does it, because you're creating a default response.
okay.
When you
Perfect.
read someone, you put your butt down. Okay?
Yep,
So,
Alright.
let's start with the place commands, pretty simple.
okay.
What's her number currently?
I have it at 58. I think that was just to get her to move.
Yeah, let's go down to 45, and what's her typical number been?
I honestly have not had to use it that much when we're walking.
Okay,
I would say I'm usually in the 40s.
gotcha.
I just haven't had we did last week, we tried the 30
30 foot.
leash, and that was hard. I tried come with recall with this in front of my house.
Mhm.
She got confused because she wanted to go inside. So,
Okay.
but it went really, really well when we did do it. Like,
Okay.
she came to me, I moved, she came and sat down, so.
When you worked in front of your home and she tried to get back inside,
Uh-huh.
did you work her through that?
I made her heel, come back
Okay.
over to the spot, and then we just worked out in the yard.
Okay, I would use that to my advantage, right? So like, let's say this is the front door of your house, right? And you call her, and she goes, nope, I'm going home.
Uh-huh.
I just, do the pivot, start remoting her. You don't do heel, you have to fulfill
Okay,
that recall.
okay,
Because what's happening is she's going into flight mode,
okay,
and every time she goes into flight mode, you want to override her
okay,
and make sure you complete the command that was given.
okay,
Okay? So if you go into the heel, she never completed that recall.
got it,
That remains a factor, right? So the next time you call her, or if you ever call her and she went to flight response and you never worked her always, or if you didn't consistently work her through it, that remains an option.
okay,
And we always want to eliminate flight response.
okay, all right,
So what we're gonna do here is pretty simple. Is you're gonna start about a foot away or a square away from the placemat, yep. And you might need to brace it. We'll see how she does. The reason why I brace it, sometimes the dogs will kind of buck back because they don't know what the object is.
okay,
You're gonna most likely have to choke up. You're gonna start tapping. And as you're tapping, you're gonna pull towards the placemat, okay? Now, of course, we want her to go there herself. So if we're putting a lot of physical strength behind it, we're gonna adjust the collar, bump it, and keep bumping it until eventually Tessie puts herself on top of the area.
okay,
I need all fours on it. So if she only does like her front paws, you would keep remoting and keep pulling until
Okay.
until all four of her paws are on the area itself.
okay,
Once she's there, you'd wait a moment. Good girl, break, and we're gonna remove her.
okay. What do I say to get her up there?
Nothing.
Nothing?
We're gonna put a word to it, but we
Okay.
wanna teach
Oh, that's
her
right.
with the collar first, okay?
She's so nervous.
Huh?
She's so nervous.
Yeah, okay. So you're gonna go ahead and start a little bit of forward pressure and tip. Tip, tip.
Forward that way?
Forward to the area right here, placemat, tip, 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 tip.
Does she know to like that?
So go ahead and bump it. No, she doesn't. So this is what we're teaching her here.
Okay.
Tip.
52.
Tip, 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 bump it.
Okay.
Okay, tip, 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 bump it. Tip, tip. Okay, you're close. Tip, tip. Try choking up a little bit more and really sure. There you go. And then a bit more forward.
Okay.
Tip, 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 tip. What's your number now?
68.
Try 75. Tip. 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 Let's try this. Let me take the leash here. Tip. Tip. Wait a moment. Tip. 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 Wait a moment. Good. Go down to 45.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have you say the word break.
Break. Tap it?
No.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do the leash part. You do the tapping, okay?
Okay.
Tap. 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 One more tip. There we go. Okay. Good girl.
Good girl, Tess. Good girl, Tessie. Good girl, babe.
Great. Got a girl. Tip. 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 Good.
Good girl, Tess. Good girl, baby. Good girl, Tessie. Good girl.
I'm gonna do a couple more. Break. Yeah, girl.
Okay.
Tip. There we go. Wait a moment. Yep. So that's praise.
Good girl, Tessie. Good girl. Oh, you're so smart. Look what you're learning. Good girl.
Break. Tip. 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 Excellent.
Good girl, baby. Good girl, Tessie. You're a good girl. Good girl.
So in the beginning, she didn't want to leave her feet,
Right.
right? So a couple of reasons. One, for the past few weeks, remote has always meant to come to you.
Uh-huh.
Either walk at your side or come to you. So now we're teaching her to go against that. We're teaching her to move away from you. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is she has no idea what she's supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
Now all these concepts stack. Okay, so when we're walking, you know, Tessie's going one way, you're going the other way. Eventually tension, right, because you're going opposite of each other, builds in the leash and would redirect her to you're going this way. So she'd catch up to go to you. For the recall, you're facing her, moving backwards and pulling, and the tension was leading her to come this way, right? Here, or actually with the sit, you're pushing down, pulling up on her neck, right? Remoting to shape this behavior. So she did it, everything went away. So that's all the same concept,
Yeah.
right? You're using physical pressure to guide her into deciphering how to shut that off. Here, it's the same concept. I pull towards this thing, and I'm tapping you, and the moment you move towards this thing, the tapping goes away.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's what's supposed to make it easier for the dog to learn the concepts. Okay, so most dogs learn these things very quickly because they're like, oh, it's just like the other like 5
Yeah.
things that we've done.
Yeah.
But for her, because of that that nervousness and just that shutdown response, her brain doesn't want to again move forward. So here, when it comes to teaching these things, like the dog, she's not meant to be doing this,
Right.
right? This is all human created, you know, the technology, this whole concept of send your dog to this object type of thing. Like dogs don't do that themselves. Like one dog wouldn't send another dog to something, right?
Yeah.
So here, that's why I said, I was like, I really don't care about the command itself. I care about what it allows you to practice on a regular basis within the home. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So here, and if you look at her, you see how she's very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? So I would expect to see this within the home as well.
Okay.
Now, in order to get her over this, you need to do this command. I don't want to think of a command like this exercise for a longer period. So to give you an example, we had a dog. Are you familiar with the Black Russian Terrier?
A black what?
Russian Terrier.
No.
They're huge, like 150 pounds. They're very large dogs.
Okay.
They're kind of like, they look kind of like a Schnauzer. So last year, around this time, we had a bunch of boarding trains come in. And one of them was Jaeger, Black Russian Terrier. He was about a year old, unneutered, did whatever he wanted within the home, and would like jump up and like bark at the owner like right here, right? He's a very intimidating dog, he's 150 pounds.
Yeah.
So he was here for 4 weeks. And one of the first things we do is we teach this, okay? Because it allows us to start doing mental exercise for the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And for like the first week and a half, he did not sit or lay down. He would be standing on the placemat for hours. Literally, we could have him there for 3 hours. He'd be standing the entire time, just salivating. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. Because the brain was so caught off guard with the rules. Because he was used to, I do whatever I want, whenever I want, and bark at you.
Did you try and get him to sit? Did you try and get him to do anything?
Well, we covered all that stuff, but the first thing we covered was this.
Okay.
Okay? We covered that first because we needed to contain him. We needed him to learn to just shut down and like relax. So for that first week and a half, he was not relaxed. He was very anxious because he was so used to doing whatever he wanted. And now we're going, you can't do that anymore. You have to sit still. Again, that kid in the church concept, right? So he was standing and salivating for like the first week and a half. And then he finally sat down. Okay? And like it was a big deal here. All the employees were like, wow, Jaeger finally like sat down. But then he still wouldn't lay down. And then shortly after that, like a few days, maybe a week later, he finally laid down and started to fall asleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but we had to, like, we were doing like 6 hours, if not more, of this kind of stuff with him every day.
Wow.
Okay?
He just stood there.
Yeah. And because what happens is the emotional discomfort overrides physical discomfort. Okay, so he was so stuck in his mind that his brain didn't register like you are physically exhausted. It did not let him just turn off.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why you have to overwhelm the brain.
Okay.
And we just kept him there for a long period of time, 2 hours at a time. You know, then we'd do more training. He'd have some free time. He'd go for his training walks. He'd come back, boom, sit there for another, stand or whatever for another 2 hours, right? But finally, once we got him over that, he would go there and just fall asleep. Okay? But when most people see that, they feel terrible. They're like, the dog's so uncomfortable. I'm like, yes, but you have to get through that if you're trying to get to the next stage. Right? So like here, the way she's laying down and stuff, like this is better than what it was before, but it's still not comfortable. You can see it, right?
Yeah.
And it's because we put pressure behind it. She doesn't like the fact that there was pressure put behind this. And that's why she's giving us this behavior, right? So for me, when I see stuff like this, I target it. So at home, you don't have to do this every day, like at least not to this degree. Is think to yourself, how would you apply this, right? If it's when friends come over for dinner or when I go to a brunch or something like that, that's usually like an hour to hour and a half, maybe a little bit more. Is if on average you use it for an hour and a half within the home, you want to practice when you can 2 to 2.5 hours.
Oh.
You're going longer.
Okay.
Because you have to compensate. In the home, there's not much going on.
Yeah. Right?
But at the restaurant patio, you can have the waiter, the waitress, other dogs potentially, people cooing at her, wanting to pet her, you're distracted, things like that. So you're not going to have that in your home. So you make the command more difficult by increasing the time frame. Which then kind of transfers to the restaurant a little bit, makes it easier because it's a shorter time. You're still going to have to correct her, but it shouldn't be as many. Okay. So here, like you could literally go home today, like right after this, and do 2 hours if you wanted. Okay, because it's not redundant. You're just going, go here and don't move. The only time you would ask your motor is if she were to try to sneak off.
Now, do I do it in a comfortable place, like her little bed?
Yeah, you use her bed, her towel, or a towel, a blanket. It's just something that has a perimeter.
Should it be something that she likes laying on the couch in her little area on her blanket? Not that, because that's not a perimeter, right?
Well, technically it is, because it's the couch.
Yeah.
But then there's a blanket.
Yeah.
So then her place would be the blanket.
Okay.
So she could go on the couch on the blanket, but she couldn't go to the other area of the couch. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but she likes that little area. I think I'm gonna try a towel or her little bed.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then, you can have a number of things,
Okay.
but if it's in one room, I would suggest having just one.
Yeah.
You know, instead
Yeah.
of having too many.
Okay.
You could have one in the kitchen, one in the dining room, one in the living room. Like you
Okay.
can have one in each room.
You can have more than one. Okay.
Correct. I wouldn't recommend having more than one within the same context.
Sure.
Because if you tell her, go to your bed, and she's like, well, which one? Because there's 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're in your kitchen and you said, place, she would opt for the one that's within the kitchen. She wouldn't go to like the living room.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She's going to go within the context because that's what she's used to practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can have one that you just move around the house. Like let's say you just use her dog bed. And you take her dog bed, you put it in the dining room, and your friends come over for dinner, she's there.
Got it.
And then like maybe you go to watch TV, you move it to the
Okay.
living room, and now she's there.
Okay.
So you know how you would use it, okay?
Yeah.
So this command is so easy to practice, but people overlook it. And I think that's exactly why.
Yeah.
Because they just put it on the back burner, like I can do this anytime.
And then they don't.
And then it
Yeah.
comes a day like I need the dog to do this and then have to practice
Yeah.
it, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you have to do 2 hours every day, but like let's say you can do 30 minutes today, 15 minutes tomorrow, an hour the next day,
Okay.
20 minutes the next day, 2 hours the next day,
Okay. Try to do it once a day.
once a day.
Different
Doesn't have to
activities.
be 2 hours every single day, but definitely the more you if you practice those longer versions, everything else is easier.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
And the way I apply it is I just go about my day. So if I'm going to watch TV for an hour and a half, 2 hours, that's when I practice.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm going to be immobile for the next hour and a half, 2 hours while I watch my movie.
Okay.
Okay, and then when I'm done, okay, break, you're free, take it off, we're good, boom, we're done.
Okay.
Okay, so there's going to be 2 aspects to this. One aspect is the send, the other aspect is the don't move. Okay, so right now we're practicing the send, teaching her to go from here to there. Okay, the next thing would be like right now I stopped intentionally to like have a conversation, explain to you like a couple of things, and she's been just laying here. Okay, that's the don't move aspect.
Yeah.
Okay, once she's mastered the send, and you can say place, and she just goes. I don't want to worry about doing the practicing like this anymore. She already knows it. Now just go to the application. So if I'm going to eat lunch, if I'm eating dinner, if I'm going to watch TV, if I'm going to go to a restaurant, whatever, like that's where I just start using the command, and the application is what keeps it
Okay.
fresh in her mind.
Now, what if I tell her place, she goes there, I leave the room, I come back out 20 minutes later, and she's cafeteria in her crate, she's moved.
Right. So so you can do that. Like you can we call them like out of sight, right? Because you leave.
Yeah.
So this takes time to
Okay.
build up.
Okay.
Initially, it's when she's right next to you.
Okay, you want to keep her initially in that.
Correct, because
Okay.
I tell everybody, start with the dog next to you because it's the easiest.
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting there for an hour and she tries to sneak away, like I'd have her leash, her collar and everything on, she tries to sneak away, I don't even need to even get up.
Yeah.
I start tapping, I already have the leash in my hand, I correct her and I go back to watching TV,
Mhm.
right? 20 minutes later, she tries again, I tap her, bring her back, she goes right back, and watches TV, right? I do that for a week. Now, and this of course is if you're practicing it regularly.
Yeah.
If you're practicing it every other day, you're gonna have a longer process.
Okay.
So it's generally week 1 is phase 1, dog right next to you.
Okay.
And then if I get up to like go get some water, I would release her first, then get up.
Okay.
Because if you get up and then release her, she's gonna think every time you stand up, you're gonna release her, she's gonna start assuming that.
So do you say release, do you say break?
Break.
Break, and then she can go do whatever and then come back and say place.
Correct.
Okay.
So then I do that for the first week, so I prevent the problem of her anticipating, oh, you stood up, I get to go too, right? So
Yeah.
we release and then we get up to do her thing.
Okay.
Week 2, she's still at her side, but now I can get up and walk away, she shouldn't move.
Okay.
Okay? If she does move, much easier to correct because she's already had a week of corrections. Week 3, she's a little bit away from me, 4 to 6 feet, still with the leash on, right? So it's easier to bring her back if I need to because I've already had 2 weeks of corrections. Come the 4th week, she can be all the way at the corner of the room and I can get up and move around and stuff. She's still got her equipment on. And then after that, if you've done everything really well, then we can move past this stuff and
Okay.
she just goes and I can go up and come down and make
Yeah,
a sandwich
okay.
for 20 minutes and come back or whatever, and
Okay.
she shouldn't move.
But always keep the leash on
In the beginning.
in the beginning.
Correct.
Okay, and if I do have, okay, got it.
Yeah. So it's baby steps. So at your side first for the first week, drill that out, and then you just gradually move past that.
Okay.
If you get to a stage where she's just having a lot of trouble, like maybe at the stage where she's a distance of you, One thing would be your number.
Okay.
That's, again, almost always the most common issue is the owner's not high enough on the collar. So, because if the consequence is high enough, she's going to think to herself, getting up from place is not worth it. Correct. The other thing would be maybe we push too fast too soon. Okay. So like I had another client, they just finished. His dog was already trained. That dog was already trained on a prong collar with food, and he upgraded the e-collar. So since his dog had a baseline of training, we progressed through things very quickly. But then he got stuck on this very same thing where he's like, man, I sent my dog to place. And he goes, and then like 30 minutes later, you'll just see him kind of going to sneak off. And we weren't even that far along. Like he was probably like on week 2 or 3. I'm like, why is your dog all the way across, the house? I was like, you're only on week 3, which would be the dog's 4 to 6 feet of you. And he's like, well, it's because the dog learned everything else so quickly.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, because he had a foundation, but here he's testing more, so you want to take either a step back or increase that consequence.
Okay.
So yeah, it does take time. So if you feel like she's struggling, you can also take another week to practice that same stage before you advance forward. Okay? Questions on that?
Nope.
So I'm going to go ahead and give her back to you now because she seems to be a bit more easier to handle.
Okay.
Go ahead and release her.
Release. Break, Tess.
Break.
Break. Come on. Okay, good girl.
So I'm going to have you do here. You're going to do that same process.
Okay.
It shouldn't take too much. It was getting pretty easy.
Okay.
And I'm going to have you, so tap, tap, tap. A little bit more of a pull with the left hand. Tap, tap, tap. Go and bump it. Tip. Right there. Very good. What'd you bump it to?
51.
Okay, good. Very good.
Good girl, Tess. Good girl.
And earlier you have to go to what, 75?
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
girl, Tessie. Good girl.
So what you'll do on these next ones is I'll have you try from 2 squares back.
Okay.
Okay, so break.
Okay, break. Good girl, Tess. Alright. And Tess. Alright. Right about here.
Yeah.
Shall you stay at 51?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep tapping. Go ahead and bump. Okay, go ahead and bump it.
Tessie.
Go ahead and bump it. Almost. There it is, almost. Okay, take one tiny step forward. Yeah, like that, and then use your release pressure. Yeah. There. Good.
Good girl, Tess.
Great.
Good girl, baby. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, good girl.
Okay, break. Any more?
Break.
We'll keep it at that same number.
Okay.
Which
Break.
is
Come on, Tess. 66. Tess.
and then back. Pull,
Break.
pull,
Come on, Tess.
pull, pull, pull. A little bit more tension. Pull.
Come on, Tess.
Yep. Pull, pull.
Tap.
Just pull. Go ahead and move backwards and just pull it to you.
Come on, Tess. Good girl. Do 2 feet again, 2 squares.
Correct.
Okay. Right.
And bump it. Almost. Yep. Almost. A little bit more. Then you can choke. There it is. There it is. Yeah, girl.
Good girl, Tess. Good girl, baby. Good girl, Tessie. You're a good girl. I know it's not easy. Good girl.
Yeah, one more.
Okay, come on, Tess. Break. Break.
Yep, and then back. Pull, 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 pull.
Break.
Pull, pull.
Break.
Pull, 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 pull. Yep, there you go. Yeah, the girl.
Tess. Come on. There we go. We're at 70.
Okay.
Do it.
Yep. Yep. There it is. Look at that.
There you
Yeah,
go. Good girl, Tess. Good girl. I know, you're working hard.
I'm gonna let her rest there for a moment. So the reason why she's having a hard time coming off is because we're using pressure to put her there.
Okay.
So she's thinking like, because I see this all the time, even with like dogs that don't have her particular issue, is they're like, oh, I keep getting tapped to go here.
Oh.
So why would I remove myself just to get tapped to go back again? So that's why it's just like, yeah. So, so just like with everything else that we've been covering, right? Because we're using pressure to teach a new thing, her first thing is always just shut down.
Yeah.
And it's the same concept, just keep bumping that number until eventually she caves in.
Yeah.
The reason why we didn't go down the other times is because we did it the first time or so, and then we just ended up ramping it back up again, which is pretty much her MO.
Yeah.
Right, we did the same thing outside for the walking, we did the same thing for the recall.
Yeah.
So all this is just it's consistent information of like I'm most likely going to be up in this range.
Yeah.
But because we are teaching something new, we always go down lower.
Sure.
And we started with a 45.
45.
Yeah. So typically with any other dog, I actually would have gone down to like 15 or 20.
Okay.
But because I already know her, I was like, I'm not going to go down that low because we're going to be here forever.
Yeah.
So I just kept it at where you're at, and we're jumping back up again into that 70s range. Okay.
Yeah.
Questions so far on this?
Will it be easier, do you think, when we're in my house, just to say?
Potentially.
Okay.
But I think once the e-collar kind of kicks in, she's going to like, get kind of shut down, which is why I wanted to cover this, because it gives you something on a consistent, like it's more easily practiced on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't require you to go anywhere.
Yeah.
All you need is an object for her to go to.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, can you read when you're getting close to her breaking point?
You mean like when we were here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I felt like she started to go and then went hold, and then she did it.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like was her breaking point.
That's correct. So when you get close to when the brain's about to cave, they fidget.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing with puppies. So like let's say I'm doing food with puppies, so there's no e-collars, just treats. And I'm trying to teach the puppy to like maybe put their butt down, right, to sit. And I keep trying to shape it, and then the puppy just won't do it. I'll just wait there, and you'll just see them kind of like doing all this fidgeting. And eventually, this might happen out of frustration, and I go, yes. And I feed. And I keep repeating that. And eventually the puppy goes, oh, when I do this, I get this. The fidgeting then stops, because now the brain has figured out the answer. Same thing for her, but now we're using pressure. So when she's not phased, she's like, nope, not matter to me. Then once you hit that 66, 70 range, you start to do this. You start to fidget, and you start to see what you said, like the kind of like that forward motion. And eventually you saw her just go whoop, and shoot forward, okay? So that's how whenever I see a dog fidgeting, I can tell the owner's getting close. And then once I'm at that range, I go in lower or smaller increments, because I know I'm already there.
Okay.
So if I'm at 70 and the dog's already giving me that behavior, I wouldn't go 85. I go 73, 75.
Okay.
78, 80, right? I'm like in that range, making it smaller, because I don't want to startle the brain. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add in a verbal cue. We're going to add in the word of place, or if you want to say go to your bed, whatever phrase you want to use is fine.
Okay.
We just want to make sure that that phrase is consistent.
Okay.
So go ahead and release her here.
Okay. Come on, Tess. Break. Pull.
Pull. Back.
Break.
Back.
Break.
Pull. There we go.
Good girl. Good girl, Tess.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Tess.
So what you're going to do here is everything's going to stay the same, except you're going to cue the word first. So, do you know, so do you know what you want to use for your command?
I think place.
Place. So you're going to cue place first, and then you're going to give like a half second, and then you're going to start tapping.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to start creating a sequence, and if you'd like, you can just take a step so that she's on your left side here.
Okay.
There we go, that'll be easier for you. I'm going to choke up a little bit more on your leash.
Okay.
There you go, and forward, I'm sorry, cue the word place, and then tap.
Okay. Place.
Tip. 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 There. And the girl in place.
Good girl, Tess. Good girl. You know what you're doing. Yeah, you do. You're smart. Okay.
Okay, break.
Break.
And one more.
Break.
And the girl.
Okay. All right. Place.
Oh, that's a good one.
Wow, good, Tess. Good girl. Yeah, good girl. It doesn't feel good to get shot, does it? Okay. Break.
Yep.
Break.
There you go. Add a girl.
Girl test.
Wait a moment. Because now she's already starting to anticipate.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Okay. Place.
There she goes. Very good.
Good girl, Tess. That's what we do. Good girl, Tessie. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Break. Break.
Add a girl.
Good girl.
Good.
Okay. This is stupid. I don't want to do this.
I know.
Okay. Place.
I had a client years ago, and we're doing sits and downs,
Good girl.
and they were getting frustrated with their dog because the dog kind of like this, they don't want to do it. So then I told the client, I was like, sit, because there was a couch there, and I was like, stand, sit, stand, right? And by the third or fourth rep, they got so pissed off. They're like, this is stupid. I'm like, now you know how your dog feels.
Yeah.
So I'm understanding, right? Like, I want to control, but I understand at the same time, like, this is a living being.
Yeah.
And so when people get frustrated, I just remind them of that, like,
Yeah.
would you want to be doing this stuff back and forth?
I know.
No, right? In her case, it's more so because of just more exposure to pressure.
Yeah.
It's like the dirty work that has to be done, otherwise you stay stuck.
Yeah.
You just have that issue there. Okay, so we're gonna do one more, then we're gonna wrap it up for her.
Okay.
But I'm gonna have you keep her on the bed, and I'll time to talk about your homework and stuff. Okay.
Okay. Come on. Break. Break.
Yeah, the girl. Good.
Good girl. Okay. All right. Okay. Place.
Perfect.
Good girl, Tess.
So, now you have your on switch. Okay. So when you practice at home, you pick your object. You don't expect to say place and her to just run her dog bed.
Okay.
You're gonna have to do this first. Okay, so you bring up the dog bed, whatever it is you're gonna use, plop it down. You would be close to it, about a foot away, and you would start the same way we did here. You just start tapping to get her to go onto the object. I don't care if she's sitting, standing, or laying down, just care that she's on the object. Then you break, release her. Once you start to feel like she's comfortable with it, kind of like here, then you start layering in the word place.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So again, the sending exercise, because this is redundant. This is, send, break, 2 to 3 minutes, a couple times a day, real short.
What do you
Okay?
mean? Make her stay 2 to 3 minutes?
No, like so if you say, place and then break, that whole concept of place and break, the repetitions, you would keep those sessions 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so like
okay,
right
got
now,
it. Yeah.
So right now I had to do 5 reps of each.
Yeah.
Originally it was just 5 reps of here to here. Then it became 5 reps of here to here.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end it was 5 reps of place to there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I do that just it's concise. But for my dog owners, I'll tell them like 2 to 3 minutes. Just
Oh, sure. Got it.
as many
yeah.
sends.
So it might have to be 5. It could be 2. Yeah.
Correct.
2 to 3 minutes. Okay.
So, and maybe you take 2 minutes to get just one down.
Yeah.
And then that just leaves you one, maybe you only do one more, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But as you do that more, it's gonna get easier.
Mm-hmm.
So, 2 to 3 minutes, a couple times a day. The application of like, go here, don't move, again, you can start that immediately because it's not redundant. You're not sending and releasing her multiple times,
Okay.
right? It's go here, don't move. So the only way you'll get remoted is if you try to sneak away.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So then you're only correcting her for those things, in which case if she does try to break, you wouldn't say place.
Mm-hmm.
You would simply just remote her to get her to go back onto the object.
Okay.
Okay? Once you feel like she's mastered the send, and you can say Tessie place, and she goes with ease, you don't need to do the repetitions anymore.
Okay.
Now it's just you just apply it.
Okay.
Okay, but doing so at least once a day.
Yeah.
You can do 3, you can do 15 minutes in the morning, you can do of her like not moving, you can do an hour midday and then like 10 minutes at night.
Okay.
Like you can do that multiple times.
Okay.
The reason why you can, again, just do so long is because it's not repeated.
Uh-huh.
It's just go here and I'm gonna have you stay there for an hour or I'm gonna have you stay there for 10 minutes. So the only way you're gonna be remoted is if you try to sneak away.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So again, I don't care if she sits, stands, or lays down. That this command is lenient in that sense. She just cannot step off of the object.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm hoping to see here is just like what you saw earlier.
Okay.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to shut down, even in the home. Okay, because it gives you something to work on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, if you feel like her energy is kind of like this down position here is actually more relaxed than what it was earlier. Can you see that? Because earlier the way her hips were placed, it was uncomfortable.
Right.
This is more of a natural position.
Yeah.
And you can see the shaking there.
She's still bunched up a little bit, but it's better than it was.
Yes. So the more you put her into this mental or emotional state for longer periods of time, again, because it's like being angry. You can only be angry for so long.
Yeah.
You know, unless something reminds you of it, or maybe if you see the person who got you upset in the first place, you're not going to trigger again, or unless you think about it, right? So here, if you keep doing this and putting her into the headspace, and she's like, man, I don't like this, and she's there for 2 hours, kind of like with Jaeger, and you're doing that on a regular basis, you're going to start seeing her, one, go to place with ease, much more relaxed. And then when she's there, just right away going into relaxation as opposed to awkwardness into relaxation. Okay? So a very simple exercise, but something you can practice inside. Something that will give you extended control. So come the springtime and stuff, and definitely, you know, during this time I say practice this stuff because you know, what else is there to do? So that when spring rolls around, you're not like trying to catch up. It's like, all right, we did our homework, and now we're gonna go out, we're gonna enjoy the nice weather, and I'm gonna have you do this outside now. Okay? Questions?
No.
So, pretty simple stuff. Otherwise, nothing out of the ordinary about what I would expect to see just from what I've seen from her before. But she did get over it quicker.
Yeah, she did.
Okay? And then just remember your range. So like if you find 70 is that working number, I wouldn't even start at 45 or whatever.
You would not.
I would just start at 70, right? But I would give it a few more sessions of starting at 45. And then, you know, just trying to find that number that just gets you to go very easy.
And we'll try at 45 and then see.
Then work your way up. But if you always go to 70, then at some point I just start at 70.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Awesome.
Hey, come on, Tess. Break.
Break.
Yeah, break. Yeah, I see.